Alright, I'd like to thank the people who watched and commented on Black Chapter 1. I enjoy getting your feedback. Thank you. And here we go with Chapter 2 of Black, based on Twisted Metal Black, developed by Incog Incorporated, and published by Sony Computer Entertainment of America. Alright, here we go. People called him Kid. He didn't much care, it was only a nickname, like the cook, Butch. Besides, the young man was surrounded by patients with weird nicknames like No Face or Bloody Mary, so as far as nicknames go, he was relatively fortunate. Still, though, he wished people would just call him Jimmy. Besides, even though he was the youngest person who worked there, he was already past 25, hardly a child. He had started working there shortly after college, and he was as responsible and mature as they come. The only thing that earned him the name was his shy nature. The guy was more than a little timid. He was an outright pussy. Hell of a place for a guy like him to work. Some of the more alert patients liked to try to frighten him. Others didn't try. They were scary without intending to be, like that preacher. He was nice and all, and he didn't mean anybody any harm, but just knowing what that old man had done, and the reasons he claimed for doing it, was enough to give you the heebie-jeebies. Especially when he started talking all that whacked-out theological weirdness about demons and sin. Jimmy didn't quite know how to deal with him. He didn't like to act afraid around the preacher because, although he was nuts, he still commanded some of that sort of pious respect entitled to someone of his office. So, for the most part, he would avoid him and limit any interactions he might have with him to small talk. In an asylum, small talk is really, really tiny. It was actually more awkward than simply not talking. The last thing he needed was more of his grandiose, delusional bullshit, which you were always at risk of getting when you tried talking to him. Today, he decided to risk it anyway. The old man had apparently been damning people in the cafeteria again, and Jimmy had to take him to solitary again. The old man was walking totally erect, his cuffed hands folded in prayer, and it made Jimmy feel small. He was staring at the floor, debating whether or not to try to make conversation with him. He wanted to be friendly, but he also realized he was taking him to solitary confinement, so the old man might not be too receptive to anything Jimmy might have to say. Jimmy's braver side won. "It's getting warm out. Spring soon," he said. The old man looked at him over his shoulder. The wide brim of his hat cast a long shadow over his face. His glasses glinted in the yellow light of the hallway. Creepy. Yet another moment that Jimmy wished they'd not let the patients keep their wardrobe. Of course, that would make them more hostile, but still. "Yes, I suppose so," he replied in his thick, craggy southern drawl. The young guard felt a little dumb. The weather? You're taking the guy to solitary, idiot. He's not going to get to go outside for a while. There was about a minute of silence. Yeah, he thought that was some pretty small talk there, Jim. He took another stab at it. "Big shipment of frozen beef came in. I told Butch to make steak tonight. I'm getting kind of tired of the sloppy serves. One thing we both have common, same lousy food." The preacher grinned. "I never knew you boys ate the same food we do. I always guessed you ordered out or something." Jim was pleasantly surprised. As unassuming as he was, the preacher never seemed to care much for idle conversation before. "Well, I guess it just keeps us pure, Reverend." The old man chuckled. "Butch is a good fellow, though. Could you ask him something for me?" "Sure, no problem," said Jim. The Reverend went ahead. "Ask him to make me a salad, if he would. Friday and Lent, you see." Jim got out a little notepad and wrote it down. "To-do list?" the preacher asked. Jim smirked. "Favors. Makes me feel like I'm a nice guy." The preacher smiled at him. "That you are, child, that you are." The preacher sighed sadly. "Midtown could use more men like you. The whole world, for that matter." His eyes wandered off. Jimmy then felt a wave of pity for the old man. "Son, I'd imagine you know of the tragedy associated with me." Jimmy nodded. "You also know why I claim innocence in the whole affair." Jimmy began to feel butterflies in his stomach. The old man claimed he was possessed by a demon, and that the demon forced him to kill those people. Jim didn't know if he believed in demons or hell, but he believed that the old man certainly thought he was possessed. He felt the old man was innocent. But he didn't want the old man to start going off into the fucking creation account or whatever nonsense he was about to drawl on about now. "Whatever you believe about me is your own business, child, but there are demons out there, and they hate God's creation." Here we go, thought Jim. He politely listened on. He quickened his stride a little. The old man didn't seem to notice. He just went on. "There's a change coming, son, an awful change that will change us all forever, and it just may claim my life." "Nice, old man, but I really don't care." "How sure are you?" Jim said, mentally kicking himself for being too polite. "Sure as hell." Interesting. That was the closest thing to a profanity he'd ever heard the old man say. "Son, you are precious in the eyes of God, but there is a man here who cares nothing for your life. God has revealed his presence to me. I know the killer's here, that damn sweet tooth." The old man put his cuffed hands on his arm and gripped tightly. The young guard stepped back and pulled his arm away. "Relax, dude. No need for language." The old man held his hands forward as though he was begging. "I'm not profaning. The man is damned, and he will soon be set free. Everyone here will be set free, and it will be hell on earth. Satan's pawn is coming, and he is going to empower the tortured souls here to lash out in anger and hatred at the world." The old man was sweating hard and shaking like a leaf. Jim grabbed him. "Dude, calm the fuck down, all right?" "Shit, I cursed," he thought. The old man calmed down, though. They continued the walk until they arrived at the door of the windowless cell. "I've had the strangest talks in these halls," thought Jim. He quietly opened the door to the cell, uncuffed the preacher, and gestured him in. The preacher took a step over the threshold and then turned his head to the young guard. "I'm sorry if I made that unpleasant. I realize I must be a little hard to deal with when I have my deep concerns in mind." Jimmy shrugged. "Don't mention it. I know you don't mean bad by it." The preacher nodded and looked down at the ground. Jim felt the pity again, despite his aggravation. Jimmy fished around for something to say. "I'll tell Butch to get your salad. Dinner's about 6, so if they don't bring it around then, I'll get on 'em about it." "Thanks, son. I'd appreciate it." Jim waved his hand. "Don't mention it." "Son, I don't believe I caught your name." "Folks call me Jimmy." Bold-faced lie, but a white one. "Jimmy, you don't have to believe me now, but when it happens, be ready for it." Jimmy wanted to roll his eyes. "I'll be sure." The preacher looked relieved. "God bless you, son. Take care."